Okay, people, let's keep going. I really don't want to do this today, but here we are. I have 3 lists, or 3 pieces of agenda on my list for today. Make sure all the symbols work, and make a save and load system. Or make it work at least. I already have one implemented. Okay, and if you want to know how to make a save and load system, you should watch Bracky's tutorial on how to do it. I'm not going to explain today because I don't understand it either. I just follow tutorials. Anyway, so make sure all the symbols work. If you remember last time, in the top right you can see the spell we made, so that when we left click, it makes a double of whatever is in our right hand. Okay, so but that is only using a couple of the symbols that we have available. As you can see, if we go into 2D mode, already there, we zoom out, we are only using 8 symbols. And if we go back into our prefabs, scriptables, magic, actually no, prefabs, we want the UI prefabs. Magic, we have, I believe, 17. We have 17 different unique types of words. How are we going to even test to make sure that they work? I did not answer this question before doing this video. I guess we'll open up each of them, look at the attached script, and see if it looks right. And then we'll try using making a spell that involves that symbol. Okay. We're gonna delete all of these, except for the one that we have open. And trigger read in and out. This is one that we've used already. We haven't tested if its othering, other trigger function works, but I think it does. So I'm not going to waste too much time on it. Okay. Next, symbol. Action output. So, if I remember right, this one is supposed to automatically trigger an output. Or this is supposed to control animations via spell, not just the normal animations thing. Let's see what we got. So when we use the use void, current action is greater than outs count. Oh, different outputs. Current action equals outs count. We are not going to want that. We are going to want this, I believe, set to 0. Actually, no. I'm going to, when I made this script, I would know that, which means if I didn't do that, there is a reason. So we're going to keep this like this. Okay, so use current action equals out count, and then player.getComponent. Animator, set integer attack, outs, current action. Neato. Let's see what controls current action. Go to base, Nope, wrong one. We want to go to the definition. Okay, so it's a inheritor of input read and out. And it gets current action from this. Let's see if it ever resets current action. Not in here. Okay, public void, add to outs. Okay, this is for UI stuff and the actual spell building. This is for the actual spell. And we are focused more on the actual spell today than we are on the UI stuff. Okay. I believe that output will inherit the update function. Possibly. Okay, so that just made it slightly more complicated how this thing works. This little script right here, use. Let's see what triggers use in this. It's the update function. So use happens if the player get component animator dot get integer attack equals the player input and all these other things. Okay. Right now, my brain isn't working very well. So, I think it'll be faster just to test the output rather than to try and logic it out. And then if it doesn't work, we can bother thinking about it. Okay. What is this called? So we have our things. We want our prefabs actually. And we're going to make a spell that involves the action output. So, how do we use the action output? Well, I believe all we have to do is substitute. We substitute our instantiate the stuff. This stuff right here. This stuff can go. And we just add it as a child. We won't bother making it look nice. Okay. Well. Do we get any errors? What if I... Okay. It looks like we crashed it. We didn't crash it. But we definitely did something. That doesn't look very good. Okay. Didn't like that. And these things keep popping up. Okay, we're just gonna try saving, clear it one more time, and if it pops back up, we'll restart the editor. Looks good. I lied. Let's save this really fast. Restarting. Okay, first theory. Horses before zebras, as they say in medicine. We're going to make sure that it simply isn't a result of me forgetting to input the actual information into the whatever it's called, into the output node. What am I doing? Gotta go to prefabs. Open up our player. And this. We need to hello? Where is the thing I'm looking for? Here we are. Now, let's go check it on the actual thing that we're using. Let's make sure that all of these fields get filled in, or what happens with those fields. Okay, potentially crash number 2. Player got filled in. And it's freaking out again. Okay, I think it's pretty obvious. This script does not work. If it's just like last time, it should stay frozen for a second, then unfreeze like that. Index was out of range, must be non-negative unless the size of collection. Parameter name index. And looks like we're going to have to restart the editor. Yeah, that's a problem. My guess is that it really shouldn't have been a trigger that this particular word inherited from. Okay, we're going to open up the script on it. Also, we're going to make sure that attack is even the right integer. Plus current action. Okay. Let's test, make sure attack is the right integer. Yep. That's okay. Hmm. So, first thing. I am at less than half battery. Second thing. This bad boy doesn't need to inherit from input reading. But since it is, we'll just roll with it. Let's try something. I have yet to try this. I don't know if it'll work, but I mean, in my head it should. We're gonna have to change how the update function works. So let's go public override void update. And so let's do a test. Let's see if it even is actually inheriting the update function. At all. Something tells me that this will make another update function, which wouldn't solve our problem. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to say public static void update. And to be honest, we probably don't even need to put anything in it. Abstract. Nope. Don't know the difference between those things. I always just use the one that doesn't cause an error. Okay. Now we go here. We can just say override. Just put it in the right spot. Virtual or abstract. Has to be one of those two. Can't be static. So let's try a virtual. Okay. Let's see. I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. Virtual void versus abstract. (2013), so this may not be. Virtual methods. Okay. Okay, that's kind of neat. Well, we don't want to have anything in here. So, we want an abstract. Interesting. Okay, guys, well, that's how you do that, apparently. Now we have overrides. And now that I'm thinking about this, I bet this is supposed to be a virtual. Nope. Voila. Okay. Now, what is it that we want to put in here? We want to copy how the input read and out does stuff with the current action. Current action by default is equal to -1. which basically means nothing. So, where else is it messed with? Current action is always set to the action that they're taking. So current action in this output context might mean something different. Okay. It looks like in this context, current action is an index value. Oh boy. So, what does this script really have to do? It has to output an action based on another thing's action. Sorry. Went blank there because my mind was screaming at me that I'm wasting my life on this. Okay. Let's finish it though. Public list integer outs. So this is the output that I'm supposed to use. Okay. Update, we will ignore because there's nothing in it for now. Then in the use function, we have current action has to be greater than the outputs.count. Or if it is, then the current action is equal to the count, which is stupid. That needs to just be 0. Now, if our... So after it's been set to 0, or if it's less than the count length, then player.getComponent animator set integer attack outs, and then current action. Okay, we're going to need a check to make sure that we don't put an output that is greater than the amount of tax we have. So let's add a note for now and come back to it. Make a clamp to make sure outs don't be that. Make sure players don't input numbers greater than the number and max, what is it? Attack int. We can worry about that later. So we need something to keep track of the current action. And in this case, the current action is actually an index value, which means when the use function gets called, it should be set to 0 to start on the first time, and then it should slowly get larger. So that the index will continue to grow. So void start, and do we have to make an override void for that? It doesn't look like it. We're going to say input action, or what is it called? Current action is going to be equal to 0 with only one equal sign. The update function needs to be left blank because we're not doing anything in there. And we're not going to need to. And then we just say current action plus plus. Nice. That should be all that we have to do. Let's go see one thing we have to check. We have to figure out what causes or calls this use function, and specifically when in the process this use function gets called. Okay, trigger, use, and spell pieces SO. When specifically. Okay. When does this use function get called? It looks like nothing calls it, which means, at least this one specifically, which means that it will be the base's problem. Base. Does it have a reference to the output for each? Yes, it does. And it uses them when the make list thingy gets called. Now, we have to make sure that this kind of happens. Before the input read and out. Oh wait, no, this happens in the use function. Okay. Not in the make list thingy. Add a bigger separation there. That was a neat looking thing. I wonder what it did. Anyway. Public override void use. What calls this use function? I hope that it'll say the trigger. causes the use function, which is this thing. And I hope this thing also does it. Calls the use function. Okay. So the input read will cause the base to use the use function, which is exactly right. And we already know that that all works because the duplication spell uses that flow. Now, let's see if it'll break again when we do the spell. What is this? Collision does not inherit update. Well, collision. Okay. This is another script that triggers stuff based on collision, hence the name collision. And I didn't figure out how to make it work because, you know, it would have to use a on collision or a on trigger enter. But since this is kind of in the UI, I've yet to figure out how to link a separate script with a separate object. Will we go? Is it possible to go into play mode though? No. Well, all we have to do though is just say public override void not bool update. I have no idea what this does. So let's see. Method or property that you are attempting to invoke has no implementation, therefore provides no functionality. Well, that is exactly what this does. Let's put one in here too then. Okay, didn't like that. But to be honest, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, we might not need this whole update thing that we just did. So we'll just delete that. And delete that. Because the only thing that uses the update is this right here. And output inherits the update. Ah. I see. That is why we had it. For now, let's just put a debug. Debug dot log. Actually, let's see if we can just leave it blank. Okay, we safely left it blank. And now, okay, it's frozen. Let's see if it'll unfreeze or if it'll crash. 6937, so 6,937 times. Magic failed and not enough mana. Stack overflow. I don't know if I've ever gotten a stack overflow before. Okay, I suspect it was Colonel Mustard in the ballroom with a candlestick. Okay. So something, obviously, is making the let's see, where does this debug come from? Comes from the failed magic thing, and what calls this? Two things call these. And they're both right next to each other. And what is this part of? This is part of the add and subtract use thing. Okay. How about this one? The same? Yep. And yep. Okay. Here is what I'm thinking. First, although I don't know how this would make any sense, we set the action to do to be 1, which is the action it was already doing, so maybe that threw something off. Let us do something. So obviously the add and subtract mana thing, it was working perfectly in the other script, the other whatchamacallit thing that we tested, the duplication spell. But it doesn't seem to have worked for something else. Oh, it does seem to have worked, but something seems to have called it a million times. Which I am not really sure that would happen. Let's do a test. For each add and subtract mana, and get components, children, add, subtract mana. And then let's say debug dot log base use function is adding or subbing mana. And I didn't even notice. Did it actually drain our magical's bar on the UI? Let's give it a test. And actually, really fast. Let's make sure our action output is 2 instead of 1. That way we should immediately combo into from left to right to left. We have an error. What is it? Why can't I see it? And 60 bugs. Whatever. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be an issue with the element. Huh. It could be... Did we make a dumb mistake? Because now that I'm, looking at this... Oh, the results have come back. Okay. What is this? Something different happened. That is clear. Let's take a look. Show that the spell is being used. Maybe it lights up or something. What executable piece do we have in those? In that spell? We have add and subtract mana, and we have move existing objects. Okay, one thing I want to check. Okay. I got confused again for a second. Okay, we have 15%. 15% to solve this spell. Let's go. Let's figure it out. What is causing this to freak out? Not enough mana. So it succeeds, then it fails, then it tries again. So something is causing the executable pieces to be called over and over. Let's scroll to the bottom, where they're all kind of... Function is adding or subtracting mana. Base function, how many did this have? Happened at least twice. Three times? 4 times? Okay. Had a bunch of times. For some reason, the editor thinks they're all unique, probably because it had an error. Okay, so that means what? That means that that something Something is triggering. I don't get it. Prefabs. Let's give it a. We have this right here. This is our thing that's supposed to be outputting. Okay, here's what I'm guessing is happening. Really quick. Let's set our action output inactive. And then hit play. Make sure that action output is actually the source of the problem. Click. Nothing bad happens. Great. Anything in the console? Base function. Base function only gets called once. Okay. What does that mean? That means that somehow our action output is doing something it's not supposed to. We have an update. It has nothing in it. Maybe that's the source of our problem. It's this update thing it has. Let's go debug.log I am innocent. And we should see a bunch of I am innocents. Nice. So it's not the update function. And layer, get component animator. How do we get this player thing? How do we get it in this? Okay, is there a start function somewhere that's really messing with this? How does this guy get access to the player? How does this get access to the player? Wait. How does trigger get access to the player? Trigger? How does trigger get component and base use? Oh, right. Player is given to all of these things by the base. So, really quick, we're gonna go make sure that we're actually getting the player. Output. When we hit play. Yep, we're getting the player. 7%. Okay. I guess I'll go plug this in. Alright, what do we have left to possibly use to figure this out? Why is this such a mystery? We know we've isolated the problem. Isolated it to trigger. Not trigger, to output. Output is connected to these two. Is output inheriting something? It's probably inheriting these UI things, but it won't do anything. And then we have the update, which we're overridden already. And that's all there is. And it's inherited the use function. But I believe we've overridden that as well. Okay, component in parent base dot use. We've already overridden that because player dot get component animator set integer attack to out current action. Let's try something. Let's see if the current action is doing something it's not supposed to. Okay. Don't worry, I right-clicked there. Current action is currently 0, so let's left-click. Let it do its crazy Stack Overflow. Let's see, does it actually drain the magic to use the spell? No, it doesn't. Alright, let's fish around for our innocent. Our innocent debug. See if the output action changed. Well, even it did, if it's not showing. And that wouldn't explain why it's freaking out. Just for funsies, let's see if it has something to do with us setting it here in the current action. In the input read and out. Because that's the only other thing that is inherited, is that number. Okay, we're letting it do its Stack Overflow. We should also be able to see it in the inspector, now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, we have only the innocent. Where is current action is still set to 0, which really isn't right because it's supposed to be set to 1 by now. Unless it gets called over and over. Let's see, does the base mess with it in the make list thing? Gives us the player and the target. And that is all. Object creation gets called twice, though. Oh, but this one is for taking instances. Okay, we're not even focused on that. This really isn't a complicated script. I don't get why it's freaking out so much. Okay. Sometimes, when in doubt, just remake it. I've wasted enough time on this trashy garbage junk. We're going to call it output action. Create an ad. And we're going to remove the normal output. Okay. We're going to open up our base script again. And instead of saying output, here, we're going to say output action. This is going to freak out in a second because there is no use function. But I guess we haven't saved it, so it doesn't know. And what is this going to inherit from? It only needs the player, and that is all. That is all it needs, is the player. It's a very simple node. It doesn't need to be complicated. So, let's see. What does our hierarchy look like? Base inherits from spell piece SO. So let's take a look-see at that. It has the use function and the piece name. Good enough for me. We can give it the player. Because, you know, we need the... We also need the use function. And what's it going to do in the use function? Well, we need the player, first off. And the base has to give it the player, and that will be in the... Ordinarily, that would have happened right there. But we can simply just add another for each. Say for each. Output action T, or I guess O, in component children, output action, yes, yes, it predicts me. This needs to be a transform, apparently. Oh my goodness. Okay, I might know what the problem is. Let's find our output script. Okay. I might know what it is. Well, still it doesn't explain a lot of things. One more test on the original output. So player.gameObject. And we're going to go back on this thing. Actually, let's go all the way forward. I'm just going to comment that out. And down here, where we have our output action, KC to comment that out. And we're going to duplicate it actually. Control KU, or control, what? Control Z. Control KU. I have too many. Control KU. Why isn't that undoing it? Control. Okay, whatever. Whatever. We'll do it manually. Stupid script. That was weird. Got rid of all the capitals for some reason. Ah! Okay. I found another problem. That was it. That was it. Because what was happening... Okay. I realize now. This. Imagine if it's not there. You know what this does? This calls this function. Right here, right above it. It calls itself. Okay? Because... it's got to be this O. This O represents the output script. So it's got to be O.use. And for some reason, this isn't working. Let's try it again. Get component in children. Boop. And output. Boop. 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 Why aren't you working? So that means this wouldn't have worked either. Our new output action script. So we can safely get rid of it. Why isn't this working? A for each statement, output because output does not contain a public instance. Yes, it does. It's right here. Do I have to save it? Something broke. I don't know what it is. We're gonna just exit off and reopen it and see if that magically fixes the problem. Oh. I get what it's upset about. I think it means that output isn't attached to anything yet. So we just gotta come here, remove our output action, and add it. File save project, and please work now when I open the script. Okay. Once these references fill in, and if there's no error, then that'll be what fixed it. No! This was working a few minutes ago! What do you mean, get enumerator? I'm not using get enumerator. Output, because output does not contain a public instance or extension definition for get enumerator. That isn't what it's doing. For each... What the... For each, parentheses, output, O, in. Get component in children output. I must be missing something super obvious here. That was all. Okay, whatever. You know what? This thing better work, or else... Uh, or else something. Okay, it didn't explode. But it did do something. Let's restart the editor. Okay. This right here should set itself to 2. It did not. Okay, well, at least we can get rid of the innocent thing. Said it had a problem with the index. Which, I guess, is better than a Stack Overflow. Whatever that is. All right. Okay, let's make a debug right here in the use function. Debug dot log. And let's make sure that the use function isn't getting called a million times. So what are we going to say? Output use is innocent, I hope, or else doom. Give me hierarchy. Did that crash? No. Okay, well this might explain why it's not working. Let's set this to 2. No, we don't need anything here. This is where we need it set to 2. This is all just garbage. Garbage that it inherited from its parent. Okay. It worked! Did you see it? I don't know if you can see it, but it switched to 2 for a second. And then it immediately switched back to 0. Okay, I think the actual animation event is what's setting it back to 0. Okay, guys. That's good enough for me. It set itself to 2. I'm happy. And just for fun, let's go in here and let's give it a couple more. Let's give it 1 and 3. That way we can kind of watch to make sure the current action is actually working correctly. Current action is at 0. Current action is at 1. Current action is at 2. Hey, check that out. Current action is... That is current action, I believe. Oh, nice, 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 nice. So, it is working. And the reason we know it's working is because we swung, or swung, right to left, and then left to right, with a really long time in between, and then spun around, which is the exact sequence we have right here. So our magic is overriding our actual inputs, which is what we want. Okay, so watch this. If I set all these, if I set there to be nothing, and I set this to be nothing, look at that. It's only swinging from left to right. Okay, guys, that's going to be it. I am